Roll a luck check. Good. You make it across the narrow rope bridge and into
the No Class Podcast
with your host Eddie
and Matt, and special guest today, Brendan J. LaSalle of Goodman Games, the infamous creator of X-Crawl.
At your service. Thanks for having me on, gentlemen.
Thanks for being here. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Listeners, you can't see, but I'm making air quotes when I say the word gentleman, because...
in convention and podcast.
All right. So, do you have any questions? Any concerns?
Why don't you kick it off while I try to adjust some of these levels?
Amazing. Let me do that. So, a little anecdote I didn't share the other day. So, got into DCC, passionate about the game, and one of the things I acquired early on, amongst numerous other adventures and I ran and played, was Hole in the Sky. And, different people have different opinions on, the best ever or their favorite funnel. This guy will tell you, I'm not just saying it because you're here. I love Hole in the Sky.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
It hits all the right beats. Something about it I love. And so a funny story is there's a guy that was here today, Bradley. We love him. In fact, he did our theme intro music. And but he got into DCC kind of later after we'd done a lot of that really heavy road crewing early on. And so he loves it. He's hardcore DCC. And so a while back, he's like, hey, man, I found this adventure, and I want to run it at the local game store. I want you there. You're going to love it. It's going to be amazing. And I was like, well, what's it called? And he goes, oh, man, it's the best thing ever. It's called Hole in the Sky. Yeah.
Nice.
So anyway, and I was like, I'm familiar with that.
Oh, that's super cool, though.
Yeah. Good little anecdote there.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. Thanks. I'll tell you what. I have probably run Hole in the Sky over the years, if not 80 times, very close to that. I mean, it was for the first year I ran DCC, the only thing I did was Hole in the Sky and DCC X-Crawl. And I'm a huge fan of the adventure. I still love playing it. I still have fun with it. I still see characters do things I hadn't ever seen before or were unexpected. So, I'm still fond.
Well, cool. That's awesome. Now, is it just me, or I notice there's a theme in the titles of your adventures?
Yes, I'm a Black Sabbath kind of fanatic, and when which is weird, I'm actually not the biggest metal guy in the world. I grew up on Long Island, and when I was a kid, it was. There was rock and roll around, but it was kind of old person music. We liked, for me, it was late disco and early hip hop. That was my childhood. But when I moved to Texas, actually, when I moved to Houston, all of a sudden there were all these metalheads, and I picked their music. And one of the bands I fell in love with was Black Sabbath. And fast forward however many years until I get the DCC core book for the first time, and flipping through it and thinking about adventures and looking at the art, I can't look through that book and not hear Ronnie James Dio singing in my ear, Ozzy, all of that. You know what I mean? Like to me, it's DCC is the most metal game ever in my mind, and it just rushes me back to those moments and such. So, I still, and I don't know. I want to see more Black Sabbath stuff out there rather than less. So.
Right on. Well, we're both old metalheads.
Nice.
But definitely, like I said, DCC is totally metal.
100%. And it's still, like, I usually, the writing music that I listen to would just, like, kill you. I listen to really bland, either really bland stuff, like in the background, just to have it, like, as noise, or albums that I just know so well that, like, I've listened to since the 70s or 80s that I just know so well that they're just in one ear, not the other, just for background noise. But I had this great DCC list that I listen to when I'm working on stuff that, and it's pretty much Black Sabbath, Hawkwind, and then bands that they influenced. That's pretty much my,
That's awesome. I know that the module I ran last night, the one that I wrote, what I was listening to when I wrote that one was there's a Pandora station called Blood Ceremony Radio.
Oh, I know Blood Ceremony. Right. Yeah, Doug Kovacs turned me on to Blood Ceremony some time back. And whenever I want to know about metal, he's my go-to guy for everything. He's the biggest metal guy in the world. And I recommend everybody hang out on one of the DCC music channels where we discuss, where everyone discusses just basically the sort of the music that inspires people we had, that was my, I miss G Plus so much. The G Plus DCC music thing was like, I would only log on every couple of months, and then I would spend like a day and just listen to what everybody had on there and such. I found more great bands that way, you know, Conan, you know, and High on Fire, and Electric Wizard, for God's sakes. Oh my God, you know, just mind blowing stuff. And again, from this, you know, metal's not my main thing, you know what I'm saying? But I mean, you got to respect when people put out music like that and just blow your brains up. So,
yeah. You know, it's like, what was it back in the day? Gygax and them were listening to what, prog rock or something.
Were they?
Supposedly.
Actually, I don't know anything about that.
Yeah.
No, that's cool.
Oh well. But anyway, so we really appreciate you coming out to the LongCon 2019.
It was my absolute honor. I had a great time. I've had nothing but good games here. It's been super fun. Y'all have been absolutely fantastic to me. And if you're listening to this, I recommend this convention highly. This was a fun convention. It's a great place to bring a family. There's a plethora of games going on for all tastes, and for a con this size, you guys have got a great dealer's hall, like a shockingly good dealer's hall. So yeah, come on out.
Well, thanks, man. We appreciate the plug, man.
100%.
Do you have anything to add, Mr. Eddie?
Oh, is that the podcast?
Is that it? So thanks. It's been so great having everybody here.
Eddie's giving me crap because I've had about 3 hours sleep. Typical con.
I'll tell you what, these guys have worked super hard, and they made me feel super welcome. And like, after putting a convention together, you people can't put together a cocktail party, and these guys have put together a fantastic con, and now they're going to just casually do a quick podcast afterwards here in the GM room. So show some respect. The GM room here, there we could have 7 more games in here if we wanted to. This GM room is super comfortable and fantastic, and I pretty much ate my weight in Cheetos and Carmelo bars in the last 48 hours. I'm like a hummingbird over there, like just eating up all the snack food there because it's just been killer.
Well, if anybody knows about the convention lifestyle and the convention diet, it would be you, buddy.
It is me. I definitely am on the road a lot. I do a lot of shows, and this is, you guys can hold your head up with any of the small cons I've been to, and with a lot of the medium cons, and one big con that I'm not going to say the name of, but I'm gonna finger spell it for you guys right here, right now. So
we'll broadcast it on the next podcast. We'll ruin this. We'll burn this whole thing down.
I'll never say that.
Now, how many cons have you got in a year? Like, what's your record? If you're able to keep track.
This is my record year, and it's going to be, I believe it's 18 this year.
Wow, that's incredible. The only thing I can say is the only thing the world needs more than another con is another podcast.
Oh my gosh!
There's not enough in the world.
But podcasts are so fantastic. They're a wonderful way to express yourselves, and you got to have your own tiny little radio show that nobody else okay, I'll tell you something about me. I'm obsessed with the TV show 30 Rock. There are like 3 different 30 Rock podcasts you can go check out there and such. Plus ones that people that involved with the show did as well. So but I love that. I love that. And how many viewers do they get?
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Yeah. You guys, hopefully y'all can't hear this, but someone is outside either doing donuts or firing an M16 into the air. I'm not sure which. So,
it's Texas. That's the sound of freedom.
He could be leaning out the window while doing donuts, firing the thing in the air and such. Also, he's the mayor, so
he does what he wants.
Yeah, I lived in Houston for a couple of years, from 83 to somewhere in 85, 86, I want to say, and so I got a little Texas, I had a little experience here. I had some great times here. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you a question that we get all the time, and we have no good answer for.
I'm ready.
Why should people come to a convention?
You should come to a convention to try a variety of games, to sort of dabble and taste a bunch of things, to meet other gamers, and to have different experiences, to get outside of your regular gaming group and the sort of the usual that you guys have that you've fallen into, and to see all of the unique stuff that you can get from the dealer's hall. and hopefully to make some long-lasting friends, and maybe find some new groups that you can play with, maybe in your area, maybe online. But I think that there's an experience that comes with convention gaming, where you really just get to come and say, oh, I'll try one of these and one of these, and I'll look at this game, and I'll sit down, or just watching, just seeing people play other games that you haven't tried out before, and sort of seeing what it all looks like is, it's super interesting. Also, to get shot in the parking lot of a Hilton Garden Inn here in Texas, because that's...
It'd be a real honor.
I mean, if I was... the chance of me dying at a con is real high, and I wouldn't mind so much if it was here. It'd be fine. My last meal was delivery pizza and those delightful little meat pies they have at the bar. Ooh, boy.
Oh, yeah.
I eat like a champ.
A genuine Nolans chef made those meat pies.
Genuine. Yeah. Delicious.
So, anything exciting, anything new happening with Goodman Games that we should look for? Or?
Absolutely. Well, we're just shipping the Lankmar box set right now, and that's really exciting. It's the end of year for us, so right now we're cooking up a whole lot of stuff for next year. We're starting to put together next year's swag and figure out what we're going to do the road crew net for next year. You've got DCC number 100 to look forward to, the Music of the Spheres. That is going to be, I've just been fanboying over that one forever. Actually, I'll tell you a story. So, Joseph did very early on, a couple of years ago, he did a presentation talking about DCC. I don't think he knew it was going to be number 100 yet, but the Music of the Spheres adventure that Harley Stroh is writing. Harley, one of my absolute all-time favorite designers and favorite human beings to walk the earth. Anyway, he had these sort of blow-up posters to go as part of his demonstrations to show. So he had one that was a very, very primitive version of the Music of the Spheres adventure, which is going to actually involve a dungeon with multiple shifting rooms that can change and move around there on an axis and such. It's going to be amazing. Anyway, I took that. I took the poster. I have it in my office.
It is now yours. You've acquired it.
It's inspirational to me. So.
Oh, well, that's a good segue for me. There's something inspirational, as Matt got to suck up to you already a little bit. I'll do my sucking up now. The quote that I is always attributed to you, or maybe your most famous quote, other than "you kids get out of here and stop asking me to go to your con," is the best story ever told. Is I'll mess it up because I'm paraphrasing, but was told one time.
I said some of the world's greatest stories have been told exactly one time by people with dice in their hands, and I stand by it.
I love that quote, and I agree with that quote. That was mind-blowing for me because you put into words my feelings. I couldn't pinpoint it and go, that's it, but now I can say, that's the quote. That sums up gaming to me right there.
Yeah, I really believe that. I mean, think about how many of the fantastic adventures that you've been involved in that if they were to, they'll never fully get told the way they got told that first time. You'll only see them. You share them with a couple of people. You act for each other. You put on characters for one another, and you make these amazing things that get seen exactly one time that go in directions. A mutual story, a story told by a bunch of people at a table goes a very, very different way than a novel or a movie or whatever and such. And it takes on a life of its own. And seeing those things happen, like I said, exactly once is nothing short of miraculous.
Yeah, and if you think about the quality of the story, and there's 3, 4, 5 people in the world that are ever going to hear that story.
Yep.
And with role-playing, you're experiencing that story.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's kind of humbling.
It really is. And I find myself absolutely privileged to, I think of the, what my life could have been, but, I've had access to I love stories. I'll never not be in love with stories. And that I've had the opportunity to share so many unique stories with people on the road and in my personal life for gaming, that, I've seen it happen again and again and again. And it's, you can become, numb to it, but every time it's a miracle. Every time it's fantastic. Even, it's always going to go and do something you didn't expect for it to do. And because you have all the other people in the mix and all those ideas, the synergy of all those people, all the creativity coming together at once, it's always mind-blowing to me. And I'm so lucky to have seen and experienced and facilitated some of the stories that I have over time.
Yeah, one of the really cool things that I was thinking about, and I saw it at other cons, and I was really glad that you did it here, was the DCC Experimental. Have you had some really good or awful results off that?
I've never had an awful result of the DCC experiment. The one today, this one took a kind of a weird turn, but no, but I mean, it's a whole thing. But no, but it was still that was a great game though, and I had a bunch of real young people. You know what I mean? So yeah, the DCC experiment. I've had so many incredible experiences with that. Again and again and again, where we, the point for of the experiment. What I do is we give. We do some world building in the beginning. We all share in the world building. So in the beginning, we come up with a unique city and a unique scenario that we then all kind of run through. We come up with some character traits of everyone and such, and then I give it some special narrative elements. So, for example, I let people, in DCC you can spend luck points to make up the gap if you fail a roll or whatever. But I also allow people to spend luck points to change narrative elements of the game. So you might, someone say, well, how many luck points would it be for this guy that just came down the elevator to be my brother that I haven't seen ever? And I'll be like, 2 luck points, and that's happening, or whatever, and making it based on luck points makes it where it doesn't happen too you don't see people just ruining the game with it because they're going to need those luck points at the end when my monster comes out and tries to eat their face. But it's led to some just absolutely fantastic, interesting, captivating stories. Again and again and again. And again, one time, one group.
Right.
Even more so than there's some adventures I've run 50 times, and they all have similarities. But this one, every time gets out of hand. Every time, wonderfully goes beyond my expectations. So, it's not the kind. I don't know. I'd love to find a way to share that with more people, and I'm still thinking about what that would look like. But at some point, I'd love to do that in such a way where and here's the home version, and I'm still just trying to figure out how that's going to look and what it's going to feel like. So that is something I'm working on.
Cool. Kind of talking about writing stories, writing adventures, because the only thing that the world needs more than another convention and another podcast is more guys writing modules, right?
Absolutely.
So here's one that I'll ask you from something I've been going through, because I've almost never written down adventures. It's always here's my outline, but actually trying to put pen to the paper and go,
Sure.
This is how somebody else would run it. One of the things that I've had problems with is kind of self-censoring. Maybe this is an adult situation that should not be in the module.
Oh, yeah.
Do you run across that? Is there things that you're like, oh, this is a great idea, but that's not going to see the light of day?
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes,
Be it
I
too
think
gory or
it's
too sexy or whatever.
or whatever. Or actually, what mine always is, it's not that. Mine is always, this is the thing that I find hilarious that everyone else is going to be like,
no one else will laugh.
That's not
It's
funny
too
at
dark.
all. Or just too, whatever. You know what I mean? Like I'll have an idea. I'm trying to think of one specifically now, and of course I can't. But I have a very, I don't know. I've got my sense of humor, and I don't not let myself tell jokes in adventures and slip in. I slip in tons of references and in jokes into everything that I do. But sometimes I'll come up with a thing that I at first glance, or when I first put it down, I think, oh, this is gonna be so funny. And then I go back and read it, or I try running it someplace, and I'm like, oh, that's right. No one is going to think that's funny but me. And that's my part of my problem. No one thinks I'm funnier than I do. Absolutely no one. And I will very often write things that I realize are very amusing to me, and that everybody else would be like, oh, shut up. That's not. So I don't, I kind of have, I'm trying to say, my stuff, too dark. There are, I think that you just got to find the right audience for anything like that.
Right.
There are people who are putting adventures out there that are definitely not ready for general consumption, that are certainly darker or bleaker or whatever extreme to whatever it is, or brighter and sunnier. You know what I mean? There's somebody out there that's coming up with scenarios right now for No Thank You Evil that you would be like, oh my gosh, but that kids are gonna love. It's not for a general audience. That's for a real specific niche. And there should be a people writing for that niche audience. You know what I'm saying? And there should also be people writing, for the bronies and the metalheads and the people who just want to see monkeys on horseback having lance fights. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
That's me. definitely. But so I just feel like, if you have that idea and you have to get it out, whatever that is, that doesn't
Right.
go very, you just got to decide if you're going to do it and then put it out in such a way that people can go, okay, this is a thing that I want or don't want because of its content. You just don't want to sneak that in on anybody. That's
Right.
what's nasty. You know what I'm saying? That would make me angry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing, while I'm kind of picking your brain as somebody that
Sure.
is looking at, how often do you flop? How often do you go, this adventure is just not fleshed out, or it's when it comes in contact with people, they're just not responding the way I thought they were going to?
And see, that's the beauty of the RPG thing, okay? Especially these days when you can go online and find groups, You write an adventure and it flops. Maybe it's dead, but maybe it just needs tweaking. Tweak it. Do it again with another group. Tweak it. Do it again with another group, And just keep doing that until you figure out what the problems are. And then, put it together, I used to say that, the minimum I would the minimum times I would run an adventure, like before I put it to paper, would be like 3. Like
Okay.
running it twice myself and then getting one other person to do it. But like these days, like now that you can go on the internet and find people at like any hour, you can find Germans who are looking to play DCC who speak English and they want to play at 2 in the
wow.
morning. Yeah. There's absolutely no reason not to play test your adventure until you really feel very good about it, and keep on doing it until you get it where you want it to be.
Well, this is one, I'll let you cut in just a second, man. It looks like I've sparked your imagination with this line of questioning. I am contractually obligated to mention my mod, Carnage Casino, in every podcast. But that's one where I did a lot of play testing for it, and I ran it here and I ran it there. It just wasn't landing. I was like, I don't think this is it. I think this is like my sophomore attempt,
Yeah.
and it's just not landing. But then I went to NTRPG. I got an MCC. It's an MCC adventure.
Uh-huh.
It's an MCC crowd for the first time.
Yeah.
Those guys freaking ate it up with a spoon. They
Different
loved
story,
it.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
said, I've been running this for the wrong people. I mean,
Yeah.
there's tweaks and pieces that needed to be done, but it was all about knowing the audience and getting it to the right people.
Sure. Yeah.
And I'll be happy to mention Matt's module, Mansion of Madness. But which one did you want to talk about, brother?
Oh, no, I was going to say with Carnage, I kept telling you, were like, man, something's not right, and I said, yeah, but you're close. I mean, there's something that's missing. It's just I can't put my finger on it. And you made that one change, and I really think that really, that was the missing piece.
Yeah.
So
I got one of those, okay? In fact, I'm going to go ahead and on y'all's podcast, I'm going to announce for the very first time this adventure I've been messing with, which will be like part, I don't even know now, 5, 6 of my Black Sabbath, octuplet adventures, which is Planet Caravan. And first time I ran
I love that song.
me too.
I know, right? I won't say it's my
So
favorite
trippy.
Sabbath because I got a lot of favorites, but I love it's
so
an
trippy. I love
absolute
it.
beautiful song, and it's I don't know. Okay, this is another podcast. You know what I'm saying? I did, and anyway, so I tried it. It was like 10% of it was good, and the rest of it was like, no, this isn't it. And now I've run it like 5 or 6 times. It's still not there 100%, but every time I do it, I get a little bit closer to what I'm going for. And now it's still fun for me to run at a convention. It's just not right for publication yet. So, I'm going to try that one. That's going to be like one of the ones I'm really going to mess around with next year and really do a lot of tries with. But I believe in the. I'm even sure. I want to call it even the concept, the feel of it. You know what I mean? I sort of have a thing I'm going for. This kind of like, it's fantasy, it's space, and it's about loneliness and isolation, and sort of like finding yourself, sprung into creation, and having no kinship with anyone, and having to connect and find those kinships, and sort of like make a family out of what you find there. And
That's pretty deep.
you know what though? You here's the thing about that. You can be deep on that end. If you played it, you'd be like, oh, we shot it. We fought a bunch of guys. You know what I mean? Like, and still have fun. I think that one of the things I think about adventure design, at least for myself, that really helps for me is that I think that all of my things have a bigger level that nobody sees but me. And I work in that kind of way where I'm trying to think, what did I even run here? This is so awful. I'm so sleepy. I ran.
I'm right there with you, Brendan.
What did I run? I ran.
I'm here to torture them.
Actually, X-Crawl is a good example. You know what I'm saying? Like, X-Crawl, it's silly, it's a game show, it's lethal. There are monsters and prizes and traps, and you go through and, you can take it on that surface level. But I think on a deeper level, I think X-Crawl is a super dark world. I think it has a lot to say about commercialism and celebrity culture and the rich person versus poor society that we all live in. Class conflict, absolutely, racism, and I think all of that is in there, but just a drop here and there and such. But I see it, as when I'm designing it, I see it on a much bigger level. I think about what it's like to be, the backstage key grip in a place where this one monster that happens to speak English that you became friendly with is getting ready to die on Thursday in the third heat of the Phoenix Open. What it's like for him. Yeah. And what would that do to you as a moral being living in a world where the absolute best thing you can do for your family is get a job with this death sport, where you are literally going to watch not just your fellow humans, but other sentient creatures that just don't happen to look like you, get shanghaied and forced into combat and murdered for trinkets,
Well, if you ever wonder if there's anyone that appreciates that deeper level, I'm going to brag on my boy here, because when he's looked at X-Crawl one time, he said, the whole run through the dungeon, blood sport thing's great. But he said, if you really think about it on the deeper level, like the whole behind the scenes, the corporate thing, just what you're talking about, this cat thought about that level of it. It's like, man, to play an adventure where you go into the intrigue and the corporate, shenanigans and double dealing and whatnot. He said, now that would be cool. So,
yeah. And I hope one day, I have it's one of those things how is it that my own game is my own heartbreaker? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I have so much stuff I'd love to do. It would take me, if I could run, a 4-hour weekly for a set group that made it every session and we got together for 5 hours twice a week, it would take me, years to explore all of the things I would really like to explore with that kind of adventure. And it would have to do with all of that and more, so.
Yeah. Well, I know you're getting tired, but I'm going to pick your brain on X-Crawl a little bit more if you don't mind.
I'm
It's
here.
your
I'm
baby.
doing it. Yeah.
Well, once again, let me tell you about my character. I wrote this X-Crawl adventure, and it was in the Boffer Leagues, so you were basically a 0 X-Crawl level. And it was very meta, as there was an interview I heard back in the day with Giza Butler talking about Iron Man. He's like, the Iron Man was us. It was a reflection of us. So the one that I wrote was The Long Crawl, and it was doing us our very first con, and we were at the Cheesy Hotel, and the 0 level Boffer League guys were us.
Yeah.
It was really taking place in the hotel we were at
That's
the time.
fantastic.
And so to me, it was kind of layers and layers.
Yeah.
And I broke one of the rules by having some lyrics in there, this one was very the lady or the tiger. You going to go with this or that? Is door A or door B? And the Rush lyrics for if you decide not to choose.
You still have made a choice.
So you had a door A and you had a door B. No one ever found door C that just took you through the whole thing. Every time you had a decision point room, I decided not to decide. I searched for secret doors. There it is, and I go to the next one.
Very clever.
But that was the kind of when you get really, I guess, meta into it and you just start putting more layers and layers.
I'm not sure that's even necessarily meta. That's just taking a deep contextual read of this weird world where that kind of thing would come up. Because, there's a guy whose job it is to design those things who maybe says, you know what, I'll put a secret door in here and it'll be door C. And, eventually his boss is going to be like, why do you do this? And he's going to say, look, do you know the band Rush?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That exists inside of that world.
Exactly.
So I hope... I hope you keep doing stuff like that because that's fantastic, man. And I hope that, that's not even meta. That's just this crazy world that look, everything in X-Crawl. It's 8 million things that I read and cobbled together. It's what I mean. There's nothing original. It's just a bunch of things that went through my filters and kind of fell in there and such. But I think they're all things about that sort of reflect on our real world and of course on Dungeons and Dragons and on my own personal game style, and it kind of came to create this thing and such. And I hope that I hope that it's the kind of thing that even if you don't recognize where all that comes from or care, and you don't have to care, you can literally just run through it and do it the way it is. But even if you don't recognize it, I hope it still feels like it has enough layers that it makes you want to add things like that, because if it has layers, then you can add layers. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's what I like. I love hearing stories like that, because that makes me think, oh yeah, that's that other people are looking at it and taking it to that different level. Then I've done my job right. So
cool. Let me ask you another one, kind of off that. We were talking about Thundercats the other day.
Yeah.
So one of the first things that I ever read in the X-Crawl books was, I can't even remember which one it is. What, DJ Devastator?
Devastator, yes, from the old core book. Yeah.
So that was one of your buddies, right? Was he DJ Devastator? Is that how it was, or no?
No. So the original DJ, a lot of them are based on friends of mine. Okay.
Okay.
The original X-Crawl DJ was DJ Cudgel Up, and that is based on my dear friend Julie Klugman.
That's probably
who was one of the early people who I gained with, and who, like, when I first started thinking about X-Crawl, I'm like, oh, she'd be the perfect one for this. Smiling, having a good time, and then just watching you burn yourselves down and fight these horrifying things. And I loved the idea that she would train these goblins. She has the part of the story is that DJ Cudgel Up has her own goblin fight squad. They're the Cudgel Up dancers, and they're just this coordinated team of really good goblins that she's been like working with for generations and generations. And they just, but they're also like, it's also silly. You know what I'm saying? Like, even though these guys go out there and fight and get killed, they also learn dance steps. They learn how to fight on roller skates. They learn how to fight on bungee cords. You know what I'm saying? And they do all that and such. So I actually call her Julie Klugman. She's based on my friend Julie. Devastator was actually in my original home campaign. The way it went was the first one I ran was the Memphis Crawl, and then St. Louis. And the Memphis Crawl was this is back when I lived in Seattle. The Memphis Crawl sort of went as planned, but halfway through the St. Louis Crawl, it goes haywire. Some of the monsters get loose and they run around backstage, and my guys had to fight them in the dark in the control booth and such. And they've gotten control of the AVS system, so they're broadcasting while they're just being just jerks and beating on guys, and just like you'd imagine a bunch of monsters being. And they had to go in there and fight in that thing. And the whole time I've been doing advertisements for the Texarkana Crawl, which is Devastator's event. And at the end of this, the St. Louis Crawl, halfway through level 1, it goes haywire. They stop the crawl, and they announce they're going to start it back, but that DJ loses their commission, and they have a new DJ. They brought in DJ Devastator, who's the only DJ who's volunteered to come in and take control of things. And the first thing he does is he goes through and he says, all of the creatures in the old menagerie for this dungeon were in on it. So I killed them all last night. And I'm bringing in my crew. Like, so he brings his own monsters in, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, But he's going from an unlimited class event to a Division 2 event, so he has to, or Division 3 rather, and he still has to have those constraints. So it's like, what do you do when you have this horrendous, terrifying mastermind that still has to do all this and work within budget, So he turns the event, the room that was going on when everything went nuts was kind of a Wizard of Oz parody. And he turned that into a World War I trench warfare thing with hobgoblins with bayonets on M1 rifles and such, just fighting across there. Same guy, same room, same setup. He just kind of moved things, get in there, dig some trenches, and let's, put some rain in there. And it went from, this is how we, pass the day away in the merry old land of Oz to, once more over the breach, dear friends, before, you're, food for the gun. So, and that is way more about my old home campaign than anybody ever wants to hear. But there you go.
No, that was really interesting. But the other thing is, Devastator. Is that a Transformers reference for all my Transformers homies out there?
No. You know what? I'm so sorry. It's awful. No, you know what? Transformers, like, I'm that old that when like Transformers Transformers were the first toy that I was like, I've
outgrown these.
Yeah, I was like I saw them on TV and I was like, I don't even care about this. Like I had gotten out of the toy thing. I still did geek stuff. I still did comics, and of course I was gaming. But I was like, I'm not going to spend money on Transformers. I had a girl I liked, and I wanted to save up money to take her to the movies and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not a Transformers reference. I think I just came up with it.
Then you'll be annoyed to know that someone that was a little bit younger, DJ Bruticus, which is a Transformers reference that neither one of you are registering, but it's along the same lines. It's kind of.
I know Starscream. Was he one?
There you go.
I know him.
See?
Starscream.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
But
no, that's
mine's
cool.
in Texarkana too, of course. It's set under that. It's a subset, so there's a faction way of doing that. It's kind of cool.
What? In your X-Crawl world, do that. Make it all Transformers. Have a Transformer dungeon. I mean, just do it up. But like, take that. It's actually Transformers is a really interesting one because since I didn't get excited about it when I first saw them on TV. You know what I mean? I did Micronauts, Star Wars figures. You know what I'm saying?
Micronauts are kind of the predecessor.
I'm one of Micronauts. Yeah, they really are. You know what I mean? And before that, it was Microman, and it was the old Shogun Warriors. You know what I'm saying? Oh, Shogun Warriors. Oh, So to me, like but the Transformers, I had some distance from because I didn't get excited about them, and it was really interesting. Yeah. Like to go along that commercialism to say, okay, this is literally a toy to sell comics, to sell movies, to sell T-shirts. It was a giant, big marketing strategy. Hey, this robot turns into a cassette recorder, and this one turns into a gun, and this one's a tractor trailer. Not to take away, but like that's a really interesting thing. I mean, I hope you work in that kind of commercialism. Like to me, what was the one you said his name was?
Bruticus?
Bruticus, yeah. I hope that Bruticus is also a marketing genius who's at the same time putting his image on absolutely everything.
Because he's emulating. Because that's what I thought when I read it, is somebody probably came up with that, and this is his way of reflecting it and emulating it.
That's what I'm saying about
trying
layers.
To knock it off.
Yeah, like once you put all that, once you kind of like layer it in there like that, then it's like, add that level, add the Bruticus level, add all of his offshoots and such. That's fantastic. Yeah, that's really cool. You did that.
Well, part of your previous answer made me wonder, how much of the world history do you have going through your mind right now? Because I'm sure between me and Matt, just our little mods that we've wrote, we're like, what did I write again? So God help you.
A ton. You know what? The world history of the world of X-Crawl,
which I love. That's one of my favorite parts right there. It's a brilliant story to me.
Thank you. It all came like the inspiration to write all of that came from my genius mom. So when I first, I know, right? So when I first started doing X-Crawl, I just envisioned it as being, I really wanted it to feel like RoboCop, okay? Where you had the adventure there, but then but you'd only see the commercials. You'd just see these ads in the background. And I was going to use the ads and the TV references and all the marketing stuff to kind of like show that on the outside, but I didn't really ever think to explore it. I was just going to do dungeon. And then I got with the Panda Head guys. The Panda Head guy said, no, write a backstory, write a world. How's this all getting there? So I'm working on it. One night I mentioned it to I'm like talking to my mom and said, I'm like, this one takes place in St. Louis. And I'm sort of like coming up with some experimental backstory. And she goes, if it's all Roman based, and this is all about Roman things, why is there a place called St. Louis? And I had to go, oh, that's a great question.
Yeah.
And it was like, she was exactly right. Like, and at the same time, I wasn't willing to, if I went back and changed all of the city names in America to reflect a deeper Roman heritage, you know what I'm saying? If everything was like New Memphis and, New Isomay or whatever, you know what I'm saying? It would be, like it wouldn't feel like X-Crawl anymore. It wouldn't feel like American Sportsman anymore. Right. And then what are you doing? So the entire history of that, it's like, okay, well, how do I have? And this is how a lot of things I did in X-Crawl took place. It was like, okay, this is what I want to see. How do I get here? You know what I'm saying? So it was like, okay, well, there were Messianics, and they came over here, and they settled the U.S., and they had to fight off the British, and they had their general who then betrayed them and created a quasi-Roman state with British aristocracy levels and the European guild system, you know what I'm saying? Like this weird hybrid he put together, but it all because I had to have an adventure that took place in St. Louis or Texarkana or like that was the original ones. It was Memphis, St. Louis, Texarkana, and then eventually Brooklyn, the Brooklyn Crawl, which is when I went back and did like a zero level thing, So it was like how do I get back to this? How do I take this? This is what I wanted to see, like the original vision for X-Crawl for me was I was on the bus and I had this picture in my head of a guy, like a fighter, and his thief buddy is trying to pick a lock, and he looks on the inside of his shield and there's a digital clock stuck in there, and he's like saying, look, we are going to get disqualified if you don't get there. And he's like, all right, just shut up, let me work. And everything X-Crawl was to make that happen in an environment where it makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Everything comes out of that.
To live that time constraints, easy for me to say, is such a good way to move the party along.
Oh, yeah.
Like, hey, you're being timed. That blows people's minds.
Oh yeah, and then also for me, like, and that's a lot of X-Crawl is about my individual play style. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would hate having adventures. Like, I would get so mad. I would set a thing up, and I was a kid and I wasn't very good at it, you know. But like, they would meet a man in a tavern who would say, "I know a place. You know, there are monsters there that need to get slayed," and all my guys would spend a whole session going, "No, we want 500 gold pieces," and they would fight. They would keep us from getting to the action of the adventure for like sessions and sessions, fighting over imaginary gold pieces and just to get on my nerves, I think. So, you know, like now you go to the X-Crawl adventure because that's your job. You're a professional adventurer and that's where it's happening and such. And it eliminates a lot of that motivation, but then it also lets you have that other kind of motivation. Like, why did you do this in the first place? Like, that's the, you know, now we've all agreed that we're going on an adventure today. How did you get here? You know what I'm saying? We wagged the dog. You know, so I had a giant big medical debt. I just can't wait to get out there and bust some skulls. I'm a sociopath, and I'm going to take out my frustrations on bugbears or whatever it happens to be that your thing is. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it eliminates like parts that bothered me as a player. Like, you would go through the dungeon and you would find like, you know, 65 bolts of expensive brocade cloth that are worth 100 gold pieces each if you can figure out how the heck to get them back to Greyhawk. You know what I'm saying? And you're like, I'm going to lose my mind over here. There's only so many bags of holding, you know? So, hey, you know what? They mail you that stuff. You get a gift certificate. You know what I mean? A guy comes by your house with a van. You know?
I love the little girl comes out and presents you. I'd like to give you, your lifetime supply of Lifebuoy.
Yeah, but you don't have to
We'll
carry
just stop the action and
you don't have
do
to
a
carry
commercial.
that through the dungeon. And when you get home, you call their PR guy who sends you a case, and you run out and send you another case.
I love. He had played X-Crawl a few times, but I never had. And he wrote his adventure and he wanted a little help, play testing it. And I remember at one point we come into a room and they're zombies or something, and like we're ready to run there and just tear them up. And as we get closer, like one of them lurches close and goes, "Okay, go easy on us. We're gonna make you guys look good." And we're like, "Wait, what?" And when we realize, he goes, "Yeah, make a perception. Yeah, these guys are just guys made up in makeup, and they're So we tried to like. So he's So he's like, "Are we gonna draw our attacks? Or are we going to go ahead and be brutal and murder these human beings that are just playing at being zombies?" So that kind of blew our minds because we're like, "Whoa, wait, what the hell?"
Yeah, staging it.
That's what makes it different.
And that would, and I love that. That's exactly how it should be, and I think that's a really cool way to do it, and to kind of like snap your players out of their normal perception of it, and give them these interesting role playing opportunities. They have to then deal with. So, yeah, that's killer. Fantastic, man.
But the zombie room, you had mentioned something earlier about people doing the thriller to some zombies, I think.
Yeah.
Almost every party that went into this room where the zombies bust in, and it was kind of easy for me to say, you can tell it's getting late. Night of the Living Dead theme, that was kind of the room where, okay, the zombies are busting in, here's your horror movie genre sort of thing.
Yeah.
Almost every single party that I ran through that would bust out the thriller dance on them.
See, that you know what that does? That makes my heart just like glow with pleasure. I love hearing that. That's so cool.
And everybody thought they were the only ones to do it.
Yeah, but that's
it was great though.
Cool,
that's kind of like the universal experience.
Yeah.
You see zombies coming at you. What do? I start dancing, baby.
I think it's fantastic. Yeah, I love that. And I put references throughout stuff. Sometimes people get them, sometimes they don't. But the references are there to give it layers. You know what I'm saying? So whether or not they pick them up, you recognize that they've got things and such. So if it wasn't the zombie thing with Thriller, it'd be something else. You know what I'm saying? So I hope that's what the scenario does for people in general across the board. So.
All right. I can tell they are running out of hit points. So you guys have any final thoughts you want to go?
I'm so grateful for this opportunity to come be on your podcast and come be on your fantastic convention. And I have had a fantastic time. You guys have been super, super generous with us and treated us great. And I've had just great games here. I've met some really hip people and, it's just been fantastic. So thanks very much. And I hope that every time you do an event like this, I'm not saying I can come every time, but I hope you'll always think of me and always reach out to me. And if I can, I absolutely will.
I heard him say he could come every time. That's how we will edit this.
They'll edit it. It's going to be like, Brendan is going to move here to Texas
and
just live here at this hotel. And when they need me for a dungeon, they're just going to it'll be like Hideo in what's it called? Oh, I can't think of the movie now. I am getting tired. Neuromancer. They'll just thaw me out.
Yeah,
I'll run a dungeon, and then they'll put me back in the deep freeze. So.
Right on. But yeah, we appreciate Goodman Games, letting you come out, letting you
Absolutely.
off the leash, and we really appreciate you coming out. And Goodman Games has always been really great to us. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but I mean, seriously, they've always been very generous with us in many regards.
Oh, good.
So
Good.
We appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'm really glad we could help out and be a part of this. I'm proud that Goodman Games and myself personally can be a part of this fantastic event that you guys have put together. Well done, guys. Well done, y'all.
One final butt kissing. I think we've already said it on the podcast, but we said, if getting special guests, who would me and Matt enjoy? Who would we really love to see? And seriously, no lying, top of the list, you, sir.
Satine Phoenix.
So.
And then me. No, but seriously, thank you very much, and I really appreciate that. And we you're welcome. And here's
Thank you.
So here's something y'all don't know out there in podcast land. This past Thursday for the convention, was Matt's birthday, and we wound up doing a late night birthday game for him. But I was tired, and we only went for a couple of hours. So next time we do this, I want us to build in a big proper game for everybody where we can get in there and actually roll some dice and do some heavy DCC lifting.
I would just hate that.
Yeah, me too. So.
No, that would be phenomenal.
All right, podcast land, we are out of here.
We're out of hit points. Thanks, gang.